Emberclaw Chronicles, Chapter 10. The Long Path of Light. Morning came softly to the western hills. Mist drifted through the valleys like pale silver ribbons, while the first sunlight touched the tops of the grass and the scattered stones along the path. Dew shimmered quietly on the wildflowers, and the air carried the gentle scent of earth, warming after the cool night. Lyra walked at the front of the trail. Her blue-gray cloak moved lightly in the breeze as she followed the narrow path winding toward the distant hills. The brass instrument hung at her side, resting quietly against her hip, as though it too were listening to the morning. Behind her came the steady sound of wings folding and careful footsteps over the grass. Emberclaw walked easily along the path, his golden scales catching the sunlight in warm flashes of amber and gold. Beside him moved Seraphine, her silver scales reflecting the morning light like frost slowly warming beneath the day. For a while, none of them spoke. The quiet of the hills had a way of settling gently around travelers, and sometimes the best company was simply walking beside one another. At last, Emberclaw stretched his wings once before folding them again. "I will say this for the builders of these towers," he said. "They certainly knew how to choose inconvenient places." Lyra smiled faintly without turning. "You climbed the cliff yesterday without much trouble." "I slipped." "Briefly," Seraphine said. Emberclaw gave her a sideways look. "You noticed that?" Seraphine's calm expression did not change. "I notice many things." Lyra's quiet laugh drifted across the path. The trail climbed slowly along a gentle ridge, and as they reached the crest, the land opened wide before them. Far below, the valley spread in long green fields, broken by patches of forest and winding streams that glimmered in the morning light. And in the distance, standing against the pale sky, was another tower. Emberclaw followed Lyra's gaze. "There it is," he said. Seraphine studied the shape carefully. "Yes," she said softly. "Another place where the light once passed." They continued walking. The path curved downward now, weaving through low grasses and old stones that had long ago settled into the earth. Some of the stones formed faint lines along the ground, like the quiet remains of a road that travelers had once used many years before. Seraphine slowed slightly as she looked at them. "These stones are very old," she said. Lyra glanced down. "Older than the towers." Seraphine nodded. "Much older." Emberclaw stepped over one of the half-buried stones and looked back along the faint line stretching behind them. So the builders of the towers walked this same path. "Most likely," Seraphine said. Lyra looked ahead toward the distant tower again. "That means they carried the mirrors up these hills." Emberclaw considered that for a moment. "Well," he said, "that explains why they chose such determined locations." Seraphine tilted her head. "Determined. Any place that requires this much climbing," Emberclaw said, "must have been chosen by someone who refused to take the easy road. Lyra nodded slowly. That sounds right. The wind moved gently across the ridge. For a while, they walked without speaking again. Then the brass instrument at Lyra's side gave the faintest tremble. She lifted it from the strap and opened the small lid. Inside, the tiny needle quivered once before settling. Emberclaw leaned slightly closer. Still moving. Lyra nodded. The light is still traveling. Seraphine watched the instrument thoughtfully. That means the mirror we fixed yesterday helped restore the path. Emberclaw looked toward the tower again. So the light is continuing west. Lyra studied the instrument for another moment. Then she frowned slightly. The light is not going straight anymore. Seraphine stepped closer. What do you see? Lyra turned the instrument gently so they could see the small needle. It has shifted. Emberclaw looked from the instrument to the horizon. The light is changing direction. Seraphine followed the line Lyra indicated across the hills. There are mountains in that direction, she said quietly. Lyra closed the instrument slowly. Someone is turning the light. For a moment, the three companions stood quietly on the hillside. The wind moved softly through the grass around them. At last, Emberclaw spoke. Well, he said, that is interesting. Seraphine nodded. Very. Lyra slipped the instrument back onto its strap. If the light is turning, she said, the next mirror may show us how. Emberclaw stretched his wings once more and folded them again. Then we should probably keep walking. The path led them down the far side of the ridge and into a small grove of trees where sunlight filtered through the branches in long golden lines. Seraphine walked beside Lyra for a moment before speaking again. You understood the mirror yesterday very quickly. Lyra glanced toward her. I have seen things like it before. Where? Lyra's answer came after a small pause. In other places. Seraphine studied her quietly. Someone must have taught you. Lyra smiled faintly. Perhaps. Seraphine did not ask anything more. Instead, she looked ahead as the trees thinned, and the tower rose clearly before them. It stood alone on a small rise of stone, its weathered steps leading upward toward the metal frame at the top where the mirror waited. Emberclaw slowed as they approached. Well, he said softly, there is our next piece of the puzzle. Seraphine studied the tower carefully. It appears undamaged. Lyra lifted the brass instrument once more. The needle trembled again, then grew still. Emberclaw looked up toward the empty mirror frame. I have a feeling, he said. We are about to learn something new. Seraphine's wings shifted gently in the breeze. Perhaps. Lyra closed the instrument and looked at the two dragons beside her. Shall we? Emberclaw smiled. I was hoping you would say that. Together they stepped toward the tower. Above them, the metal frame caught the morning sunlight, and far beyond the hills, unseen by any of them yet, the wandering beam of light continued its quiet journey across the realm.